So about 8 months ago I bought a generator just to have when power goes out. Summertime it gets hot without any circulation. Wintertime it can get pretty cold. I went ahead and got the Duromax XP12000HX. It's a dual fuel, which means propane or gasoline. They shipped it, arrived good. Hole in the box, but nothing had poked through or messed up anything. Some of the things to know about this generator that may not be readily available in the instructions. Two big things. One, it's an electronic choke. So unlike most other generators where you've got a manual choke when you're starting it, this one does it automatically, obviously, since it's automatic. So you don't have to go looking for that. As long as it's working fine, then you'll be okay. The other thing is you do not need to prime the propane like you do smaller generators. That is to say, I don't see anything about priming it in the instructions, and I don't see a typical priming spot in the generator itself. So when starting this up, you have to remove the shipping mounts. They're red and usually down at the bottom. You'll want to remove those out. I've already done it on this. You'll want to put in oil, and that goes right down here. Get your little funnel and put that in. It takes a little over a quart of oil for that, and the tag that comes with it mentions putting in 30 weight oil, and that's fine. If it's summertime, you can put some 30 weight in there, but if you live somewhere that gets real cold in the winters, you're going to want a 10W30, but they do have a guide in the setup instructions in the manual that tells you the different temperatures and what the best viscosity is to use for how the weather is in your area. So when hooking this up, the propane goes here. There's going to be a little cap that is over this that you'll remove the cap, and you'll attach the hose, which is connected to the regulator, to your propane tank. Now if you're using gas, one thing you have to remember on generators, you do have a valve here that shuts off the gas flow from the tank to the carburetor. So you'll want to shut that off when putting your generator up while the generator is still running. You don't want gas sitting in your carburetor for more than a couple of weeks, and it's just always a good time to run it out of the carburetor, because you never know what's going to happen. That way, if you don't get to it for 3 months for some reason, life gets busy, you don't have to worry about rebuilding a carburetor. Today's gas will get in there, and when it sits, it starts to separate, it gets gunky, and that puts all sorts of bits and pieces and parts into the jets, clogging the flow, creating a bad running engine, which means your generator won't run very well. So always remember that. They have the switch over here, which is for gas storage, and I think I read the storage, if you put it on there, that also allows you to run it until it dries out of gas in the carburetor. I like the little pitcock valve over there as well, so I would do both storage and the pitcock valve until it ran itself dry. But then you've got gas, but you'll notice my switch doesn't really line up straight with these, and you don't want to break the thing trying to get it there. You can feel in it a little bit of play in there where the right spot is. So for propane, you want this over on the propane, so that allows the gas from the propane to come through your cable, through the switch, and into the carburetor. Next, make sure your breaker is off. Make sure the idle control is off. Flip your battery on if you've already put the negative cable on your battery. If you haven't, you got to take this bolt, the one at the bottom and the one down here, pull this plate off, hook up that negative battery cable real good and tight, and then replace this. And you come up here, turn the battery on, and this isn't going to immediately start as soon as you press this. You're just going to press and hold it for a couple of seconds and then let go, and it will try to start in cycles. And again. And you can shut that off to keep it from trying. When it is running, this will be green. You just press and hold for a few seconds. It'll turn to red. It'll stop the generator. Now I think I have a defective pressure regulator in mine, so I've got to get with them to find out. But that's really all there is to setting one of these up. I was able to get it running a couple of times. It ran real good, ran smooth. But again, I think my pressure regulator is having some issues. This little plate right on the top seems to rattle up and down, so I don't know if something's in there is messed up or not. But this thing's been sitting for the last 8 months, so I need to get with them and get that taken care of before the warranty actually expires. Overall, a decent machine. Be nice if there was a remote start to it. Probably their more expensive ones have a remote start, but it's not bad for what it is. And I think this one at the time only cost me about $900. So 12,000 watts means I can run my central AC unit, my lights, refrigerator, things like that. It'll run the water heater. Water heaters for mine is a 50-gallon. It's going to be about 9,000 watts. So, you know, I'll have to turn other appliances off for that to run, to heat up the water when I need it. But then when I'm not needing the hot water, I can shut the hot water heater off and run everything else in the house without an issue. So overall, a pretty good purchase. And once I get that regulator figured out, it'll make it even better. I could run it on gas if I wanted to, but propane's better because it doesn't spoil. That tank can sit there for 4 years and still be good. Whereas gas in this tank, if you let that sit for 4 or 5 months, supposedly even after 30 days it starts to break down. But leaving that fuel in there just means when you do get ready to use it, you're going to have to drain the fuel. You're going to have to hope you shut it off and ran all the fuel out of the carburetor. You may or may not have to replace fuel lines or flush the system to get anything that may have floated down into the lines, which is why when you shut it off here, it keeps it from going through your lines, which means worst case scenario, you can unbolt this, drain the gas out, rinse it with rubbing alcohol real good, drain that out, put this back on, and you don't have to worry that that fuel has been sitting in your lines eating away at the rubber on the inside. So if you're using gas, make sure you take care of it real well. If you're not going to be using it for a couple of months, drain all that gas out. It's the best thing you can do for your generator to keep it working when you need it, whenever you need it. So we'll see how it does this winter, or if I need it. I didn't need it last winter. Hopefully I don't need it this winter, but just having it in case the power goes out makes a big difference. Hope this helps.